That chapter. Death chapter. And I was hearing that once one teacher, spiritual teacher, he came and he told his students that today we will have a very special session. I was excited, yes, why not? It is good to have some meditation. So as he began, he said we will be meditating as if this is the last day of our life, the final day of our life. And the final day of our life, that means what? The person passes away. And when the person has passed away, there is the Hare Krishna. Can you hear? Manoram?
Yes, Prabhuji, it is audible.
Okay, so we are in our own prayer meeting. Okay, that is the meditation. And what you will see all your friends, your relatives, everyone is assembled. Speak, they will speak their memories of who I was, what I did. So he said that this is what we have to meditate. That when we pass away from this world, how do we want people after we leave this world to remember us? So we have to write our own uh, eulogy that what we did in this life. So what we want to be remembered as someone who was good, someone who was kind, someone who was helpful, someone who had love and compassion in his heart. So to be able to do that, what we have to do? What we have to do? Huh? Bolo? Huh? We have to change our life. We have to change our life now, today. From today, what we have to do? We have to do only those things which are going to make us be remembered for our contribution. Other things which are just useless or waste, we have to leave them far behind. So this eighth chapter is a very powerful chapter. This chapter prepares us how we will face the ultimate test of our life, which is the day of our death. It is called the death chapter. Because we saw that in the first 8 questions, the eighth question Arjuna is asking is how to remember you at the time of death. So before we start to discuss, let us have our invocation prayers and then we will discuss. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavansha Shri Rupam Sagar Jatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagan Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद साधि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। Hare Krishna. So this eighth chapter begins because of Krishna's answer in the seventh chapter. If you remember, in the seventh chapter, in the 29th and the 30th verse, Krishna spoke about new terms. Jara Marana Mokshaya Ma Mashrita Yatanti Ye Te Brahm Tad Vidu Krishna Adhyatma Karma Chakhilam. So what is Brahma? What is Adhyatma? Questions are coming on the basis of the new terms which Krishna used. And in the 30th verse in the last chapter, Krishna talk about other terms. Hare Krishna. ठीक है, आप रख लो, हाँ रख लो. He talks about that how Krishna is the governing principle. Krishna is the governing principle of what? Of Adi Bhuta, of this entire cosmic manifestation, of this entire world, this material creation. So how Krishna is Adhibhuta, Sa Adhibhuta. He is the governing principle of material manifestation. Then he is Sa Adidevam. Adidevam means of all the demigods. So he is also the governing principle. He is the authority under whose command all the demigods are functioning. And also Krishna is Adi Yagyam. Adi Yagyam means that he is the Lord of sacrifice. Adhi, all the sacrifices, the purpose of all the sacrifices is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. And he is the director of all sacrifices. So he is the Adhi Yagyam. And then he also calls about that Prayana Kale at the time of death. Savidur Yukta Chetasa. This is the eighth question. Okay. So three were in 29th. What were the three questions? Karma. And in the 30th chapter, he talks about the three governing principles. What are the three governing principles? Very good. Adi Bhutam, Adi Devam, and Adi Yagyam. What is the Lila? What is Adi Bhutam? Yes. Yeah, all this material manifestation, this entire world, this entire creation. So Krishna is the governing principle. That we will see in the 9th chapter. Krishna will say that Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Se Charajana. That entire material creation is working under my direction. And what is Adi Devam? Yeah, what is Adi Devam? Here. When you are here, then please hear. Allow your mind to hear. Not allow your mind to take you out of here. What is Adi Devam? We just discussed what is Adi Devam. Wait, let her attempt. No problem. What is Adi Devam? You heard that three terms, na? Adi Bhutam, Adi Devam, and Adi Yagyam. You will have to use a mosquito repellent. There are mosquitoes here. Many mosquitoes. So what is Adi Devam? नहीं सुना ध्यान से. What is Adi Devam? Yeah, simple. Governing principle of all the demigods. And Adi Yagyam? All the sacrifices. Yes. So what is to be remembered in all the eight? Then and the final two questions is Prayan Kale. That at the time of death, Vidu Yukta Chetasaha. Chetasa means consciousness and Yukta means connected. So, how to know you or how to remember you or how to remain connected to you at the time of death. This is what Krishna spoke. So Arjuna inquired on these terms. So that is how the 8th chapter begins. So this is the connection between the 7th and the 8th chapter. And in the first 4 verses, if we see in the 8th chapter, the first 4 verses, Krishna will answer Arjuna's first 7 questions. In first 2 verses, Arjuna is asking the 8 questions. And in the next 2 verses, Krishna will answer Arjuna's 7 questions. So first 4 verses are pertaining to Krishna's answer to Arjuna's question. And from 5 to 9, Krishna will speak about particularly that remembering Krishna at the time of death. I'm giving you an overview of this chapter. And from verse number 10 to 13, Krishna will speak about Yoga Mishra Bhakti. What was the Mishra? What was the Yoga Mishra? Jara Marana Mokshaya. Those who are endeavoring for liberation. They're performing the aspect of bhakti, but the aspiration is not to please the Supreme Lord. The aspiration is to get liberation, moksha. So what kind of bhakti it is? It is Mishra Bhakti. It is not pure bhakti. So it is Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Because the aspiration is to get liberation. Yes, moksha. Then Krishna speaks about in the next 3 verses from 14 to 16 about pure devotional service. And then in the 17 to 22, Krishna compares the material world and the spiritual world. And from 23 to 28, Krishna speaks about how to attain the Supreme. So that is the overview. So we have discussed the first 2 questions. Last time we discussed the first 2 questions. So now we will discuss the answers which are given by Krishna. So let us see the 3rd verse. The first 2 verses are spoken by Arjuna. And now Krishna will answer based on Arjuna's question. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavo Adhyatmam Uchyate Bhut Bhava Udhav Karo Visarga Karma Samgita. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavam Adhyatmam Uchyate Bhut Bhava Udhav Karo Visarga Karma Sangita. Okay, recite. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Akshara Brahma Paramam Adhyatma Uchyate स्वभावो अध्यात्मम् उच्यते भूत भावो उद्भव करो संगीता visarga karma sangita. When we are reciting, you should look at the word meaning. Like bhoot bhava udbhava kara. Okay, very simple. If you see from the top and if you see Sanskrit, then it is very scary. You won't be able to pronounce. So this is Prabhupada's very magnanimous contribution that he has given word meaning so that we can understand Sanskrit. Okay, बोलिए. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavo Adhyatmam Uchyate Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Karo Visarga Karma Sangita. Right? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Akshara Brahma Paramam Swabhavo Adhyatmam Uchyate Swabhavo Adhyatmam Uchyate Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Kara Sangita Visarga Karma Sangita. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Akshara Brahma Paramam Swabhavo Adhyatma Uchyate Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Karo Visarga Karma Sangita. Very good. Okay. So the Supreme Lord has started to answer what Arjuna has inquired. So the first item which Arjuna asked was Kim Tad Brahma? That what is Brahman? लगा दो लगा दो हाँ, दे दो. So Krishna says Aksharam Brahma Paramam. So what is Brahma? Brahma is the first aspect of knowledge of Brahma is that it is Aksharam. Akshara means that which can be that can be destroyed or that which can be terminated. And Akshara means that which can never be destroyed or that which can never be terminated. So that which can never be terminated is called Akshara. So what is that which cannot be terminated? That is the spirit soul. Body is bound to time. The body is not Brahma. Body is not Aksharam. Body is Shara. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible transcendental living entity is called Brahman. So the living entity which is residing within the body, that is Dehi. Dehi is where? In this Deha. Where is the embodied? In the body. The embodied is within the body. So that which is embodied within the body is indestructible. And it is transcendental. And that indestructible transcendental living entity is called Brahman. Then what is the next item? Is what is Adhyatma. Kim Tad Brahma, Kim Adhyatma. So Krishna answers very emphatically here that is the Swabhava Adhyatma Uchyate. Swabhava means the nature. Nature means its constitutional position. So the living entity is indestructible. And what is its nature? Its real nature, its true nature. Its real nature is Adhyatma. Adhyatma means is transcendental. He is transcendental. That means he is beyond the three modes. So the indestructible transcendental living entity is called Brahma and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma. Like so many times we have discussed that what is the nature of water? Liquid. If you change the nature of water, if you heat it, it becomes vapor. But as soon as it comes to normal temperature, the vapor becomes water. If again you freeze it, it becomes ice. But when it comes to normal temperature, it becomes water again. Similarly, the living entity, all of us, our nature is not material. Our nature is spiritual. So when we come into the spiritual temperature or the spiritual condition, our true nature will become manifest. Right now, what is our nature? Material. Why? Because of conditioning. And where is this conditioning coming from? It's material nature. So the eternal nature of the living entity is spiritual. Our nature is not material. So by any material means, the living entity can never experience any satisfaction or happiness. That is why there is hankering in this world. Everywhere. For everyone. Why? Because one has failed to understand what is his true nature. And one goes against his nature, what will be the result? He will suffer. He will suffer. If you take the fish out of water, and you keep him in the best of the air conditioning, will the fish be happy? If you give him champagne to drink, will the fish be happy? No. What the fish requires? It wants to come back to water. So this is very important aspect. This most of us have never understood in life. That what is our real nature? Our real nature is not material. So by any material means, the living entity can never be satisfied. Because its constitutional nature is spiritual. So unless and until it comes to the spiritual engagement, it comes to the spiritual platform, it will never experience the completeness of fulfillment. Then the third item. What is the third item? What is karma? So what is karma? Krishna explains very beautifully is bhuta bhava udhav karo. Bhuta means the material body. So that which creates the material body of the living entity is called karma. Many times people have many misconceptions of what is karma. Let me do my karma. Bhagavad Gita speaks to perform one's karma. But one should know what is karma and which karma Krishna is asking to perform. Normally people are performing any action. That action means it will bind them to come back and have another body. Every action that they perform, it will have a counter action, which is called a reaction. What is the reaction of every action? That they will have to come in another body to enjoy or suffer based on the action that they have performed. So technically, what does karma do? It creates the future world. Like if you plant a seed in the soil, what happens to the seed? Plant comes out. And from the plant, what will come? Further seed will come. And that seed will bring another plant. So the cycle continues. So if we continue to perform karma, what is the result? Huh? So we will continue to rotate in different bodies. Very important. So bhut bhava udhav karo. So karma means creation of future bodies. If we continue to perform karma, that means we have to rotate in the cycle of birth and death. So if we want to stop rotating in the cycle of birth and death, what we have to do? We have to stop performing karma. And what we have to perform? We have to perform akarma. Krishna has explained in the second chapter. Karmanye vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So what kind of karma one has to perform? That karma which is free from reactions. That is free from fruitive action. If one performs that karma which is the bhakti karma or transcendental action, then only one can be freed from the repeated cycle of birth and death. That Krishna is explaining here. Then what is karma? So actions pertaining to development of material bodies of the living entity is called karma of fruitive activity. So in the third verse, Krishna answers how many questions? 3 questions. Very good. Now see, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said that what is Brahma? The indestructible, transcendental living entity is called the Brahma. That means the spirit soul. It is talking about the spirit soul, which is indestructible, and it is called Brahman because it is transcendental. It is not matter. It is beyond matter. And his eternal nature is called Adhyatma. So the living entity is eternal, and his nature is Adhyatma, spiritual. But what it does, having come into this material world, it is trapped in the cycle of performing karma, which is fruitive action. And because he is performing karma, he has to repeatedly take material bodies. Actions pertaining to development of material bodies in the living entities is called karma of fruitive activities. Clear? Okay. Now let us discuss the purpose. Is it clear to everyone now? Online? Devotees? ध्यान से सुन रहे हैं पुरुषोत्तम?
Yes,
आपके
Prabhuji.
साथ बाकी फैमिली मेंबर्स नहीं दिख रहे आज? They are not hearing?
Sapna is hearing, Amoha sleeping. Prabhuji.
And Sapna is hearing?
Yes, yes, she is here.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी।
हाँ, सुनिए, क्योंकि ऐसे कोई समझाएगा नहीं। देखो, भगवान कितना स्पष्ट बता रहे हैं कि हमारा स्वभाव क्या है? अध्यात्म है। हमारा स्वभाव ये भौतिकता नहीं है, और आत्मा का जो स्वभाव है उसको चेंज करते हैं तो क्या करते हैं? हमको कष्ट पाना पड़ता है। ये सारा कष्ट इसीलिए है कि हम अपने स्वभाव के विपरीत जाके कार्य करते हैं। अगर हम नेचुरल पोजीशन में आएंगे तो हम सुखी हो जाएंगे, हम सफल हो जाएंगे, कुछ फिर समस्या ही नहीं है। सारी समस्या यही है कि हम आर्टिफिशियल पोजीशन पे चले जाते हैं। जो नेचुरल पोजीशन है उसको छोड़ देते हैं और आर्टिफिशियल पोजीशन को पकड़ लेते हैं, उससे अटैच हो जाते हैं। हरे कृष्णा। प्रियंका, रविंद्र प्रभु हैज नॉट कम टुडे?
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, अभी आए ऑफिस से।
अच्छा, ओके। So Prabhupada says Brahman is indestructible and eternally existing, and its constitution is not changed at any time. What is the constitution of Brahman? That it is the subordinate to Parabrahman. It is never equal or independent of Parabrahman. That is the constitution. Constitutional position means that which can never change. What changes? Artificial position changes. The constitutional position can never change. So here Prabhupada is saying it is eternally existing and its constitution is never changed, is not changed at any time. But beyond Brahman, there is Parabrahman. So the living entity is called Brahman and the Supreme Lord is Parabrahman. And there is a difference between both. They can neither be same. The Brahman can never be equated to the Parabrahman. Like sometimes people say, citizen and government is the same. Is it so? Never. Never. Simple. The government is always which is protecting or governing the citizen. Brahman refers to living entity and Parabrahman refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The constitutional position of the living entity is different from the position it takes in the material world. Very clear? How? Because the constitutional position is of transcendental. It is Adhyatma. It is spiritual. And on the what position we take in the material world? Material. So it is different. In material consciousness, his nature is to try to be the Lord of matter. Lord of matter means that I am the controller or I am the enjoyer, or I am the proprietor. But in spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness, his position is to serve the Supreme. So this is the eternal constitutional position of the Jeev. Jeevere Swarup hoy Krishnera Nitya Das. Because he has a spiritual nature, and spiritual nature means one has the natural tendency to serve the Supreme, if one is in spiritual nature. But the problem is, we have given up our spiritual nature and we have imposed the material nature. And in material nature, what we are trying to do? We are trying to become the Lord. Why Krishna is the master? I should be the master. So this is the material consciousness. When the living entity is in material consciousness, he has to take on various body in the material world. Clear? Because he performs what? Karma, material activities, karma. So he has to take on various body. That is called karma, or varied creation by the force of material consciousness. Clear? All the three terms are clear? What is Brahman? What is Adhyatma? And what is karma? In Vedic literature, the living entity is called Jivatma and Brahman, but he is never called Parabrahman. So this is also a very big misconception that still prevails in today. That many school of thoughts, particularly those who are the followers of Sripad Shankaracharya, they consider the Brahman and Brahman to be the same, considering the soul and super soul to be the same, considering the citizen and government to be the same. The living entity Jivatma takes different positions. Sometimes he merges into the dark material nature and identifies himself with matter, like we are right now. We are identifying ourselves with body. And sometimes he identifies himself with the superior spiritual nature. Therefore, he is called the Supreme Lord Marginal Energy. So he is under the influence of either the spiritual nature or the material nature. He has a choice. So he is between both. So he is called the marginal. He is called the marginal nature or the marginal energy of the Supreme Lord. Like a citizen. Citizen has a choice. Either he can be in the institute studying like you are studying, or he can be in the jail when he commits crimes. The choice is there. There is no partiality from the government. The government is giving facility for those who are wanting to take education. For that, the institute is there. So many facilities are there. Even scholarship is there. Those who want to study, the government gives money to them also. But those who do not want to study and they commit some mischief or some crime, the same government, what it has prison house, and it has cells, and it has police department. What it does, it punishes them. So the living entity is the marginal energy because it has the independence or option either to be under the spiritual nature or to remain in the material nature. It is our own sweet choice. No one can force us. According to his identification with material or spiritual nature, he receives a material or spiritual knowledge. So according to our own consciousness and according to our own actions, what we receive, either we get spiritual body, if we perform spiritual activities, if we are situated in the constitutional position, if we are serving the Supreme, and the position is to serve the Supreme, then what is the next body? Spiritual. That means no more birth. But if we are utilizing this birth or this time to perform material activities, in material nature, he may take body from any of 8,400,000 species of life. So, till the time he is in material consciousness, till the time he is performing material actions is all relating to eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Entire world is engaged in this four activities. Everyone is eating, everyone is sleeping, mating, and defending. From gross level to refined level. But the activity is the same. So for such persons who are engaged principally in these four kind of activities, how many varieties of body they can take? 8,400,000, or what is called as 84 lakh. Very interesting. According to our consciousness and according to our actions, we can select which body we want. We have a choice. Very interesting. Then why it is only 8,400,000? Why not 8,500,000? Or why not 8 million? It is mentioned, it is in various ways, that in the human form there are 400,000 human beings. How many? 400,000. The looks, appearance, and the nomenclature of the body is the same. But where is the difference? The difference is in the consciousness. So there are 400,000 levels of humans existing. So that is why you find everyone different. You will not find, even if two twins get birth together, they have the same mother who has given birth. Their birth timing is the same. And they get this exactly the same environment in the house. But still, are they same? No. What is the difference based on? Consciousness, their desires. Their desires. So according to the desires are based on one's consciousness. One will get his future body. So in the material consciousness or in the material nature, one can get 8,400,000 species of body. But in the spiritual consciousness, the body is only one. Here it is mentioned. But in spiritual nature, he has only one body. What is that body? His body is completely spiritual. In material nature, he has manifested sometimes as man, 400,000, demigods, animals, bird, beast, according to his karma. Clear? To attain material heavenly planets and enjoy their facilities, he sometimes performs sacrifices, yajna. But when his merit is exhausted, he returns to the earth again in the form of man. This process is called karma. So he is going up and down. If he performs good activity, pious activity, where he goes? Heavenly planets. But if he performs sinful activity, impious activity, he goes to the hellish planets. And when he performs mixed activity, where he comes? Earthly planets. So either he goes up or he goes down, but he has to come back. Again and again, this rotation is happening. And this cycle or this rotation is called karma. To attain material heavenly planets and enjoy their facilities, sometimes perform sacrifices. But when his merit is exhausted, he returns to the earth again in the form of a man. This process is called karma. You have seen the game of snake and ladder? Same. Same. Even if you go up, what you have to come? You have to come down. When your pious acts are exhausted, you will have to be pushed. You will be pushed, you will be forced. The Chandogya Upanishad describes the Vedic sacrificial process. On the sacrificial altar, 5 kinds of offering are made into 5 kinds of fire. The 5 kinds of fire are conceived as the heavenly planets, clouds, the earth, man, and woman. So there are 5 kinds of fire. And there are 5 kinds of sacrificial offering. That is faith, enjoyed on the moon, rains, grains, and seed. So where is the offering put? It is put in the fire. So can you make out? For each kind of fire, what should be the offering? This is a big exercise. It's a good exercise. Apply your intelligence. 5 kinds of fire and 5 kinds of sacrificial offering. So what is which kind of offering or sacrifice will enter into which fire? I'll give you example. Like from clouds, what comes? Rain. Okay. Then further. Then we get heavenly planet. Faith in God will get us only heavenly planet. Faith upon God will get us spiritual planet. Okay, faith in God is heavenly planets. Then from the enjoyment on the moon, then heavenly planet, what is that? Enjoyment on the moon. And when the enjoyment is finished, the living entity comes in the form of cloud. There is rain. And from the rain, where does the rain fall? Earth. And on earth, when the rain falls, what do we get? Grains. And when the man eats the grain, it becomes semen. And when the semen enters the woman, the child is produced. So this is the cycle. This is the cycle of Vedic sacrifice. So this is continuing, birth after birth. It is mentioned here. In the process of sacrifice, the living entity makes specific sacrifice to attain specific heavenly planet and consequently reaches them. When the merit of sacrifice is exhausted, the living entity descends to the earth in the form of rain, then takes the form of grains, and the grains are eaten by man and transferred into semen, which impregnates a woman. And thus the living entity once again attains the human form to perform sacrifice and to repeat the same cycle. In this way, the living entity perpetually comes and goes on the material path. The Krishna conscious person, however, avoids such sacrifice. He takes directly to Krishna consciousness and thereby prepares himself to return to Godhead. This is the difference between those who are performing ritualistic activities and those who are performing devotional practice. Impersonalist commentators on the Bhagavad Gita unreasonably assume that Brahman takes the form of Jiva in the material world, and to substantiate, they refer to chapter 15, verse 7 of the Gita. What is the 7th verse of the Bhagavad Gita? Mame vamsho jivaloke jiva bhuta sanatana. But in the verse, the Lord also speaks of the living entity as an eternal fragment of God. Jiva bhuta sanatana. The fragment of God, the living entity, may fall down into the material world, but the Supreme Lord Achyuta never fall down. This is the difference. That the marginal entity can come under the influence of the material nature. But the Supreme Lord, who is the governing principle, is Adhibhutana. He is Adhibhut. He is the director. He is the controller of the material manifestation. So he cannot come under his own nature. The creator is not controlled by the creation. Is the creator controlled by the creation? The creation is controlled by the creator. This is the very important principle. Therefore, this assumption that the Supreme Brahman assumes the form of Jiva is not acceptable. It is important to remember that in the Vedic literature, Brahman, the living entity, is distinguished from the Para Brahman, the Supreme Lord. Okay. So here Krishna has answered the first three questions. That the living entity is Brahma. What is this feature? It is transcendental and it is indestructible. And what is his Adhyatma? It is his eternal nature. Eternal nature. And what is karma? Yeah, the actions which create our future one. Then Krishna will answer the next set of questions which Arjuna has asked. This is the fourth verse. Adi bhutam sharo bhava purushasya adi devatam adi agno aham evatra deha dehi deha bhritambara adi bhutam sharo bhava purushasya adi devatam adi yagna aham evatra dehe deha britambara. Yeah. Adi bhutam sharo bhava purushasya devatam adi yagno aham evatra dehe deha britambara. Adi bhutam sharo bhava purushasya devatam adi yagno aham evatra dehe deha britambara. Okay. So now Krishna says that Adi Bhutam is Shara Bhava. What was Brahma's Bhava? Akshara. That which is indestructible. And what about Adi Bhutam? That which is destructible. It is Shara Bhava. And Purushascha Adi Devatam. The universal form of the Lord. It is the Virat Roop. Or it is also called the Vishwarup. That is the governing principle for all the demigods. And Krishna says, Adi Yagyam Aham Evatra. That who is the Lord of all sacrifices? I am. Already he has spoken that. Where he has spoken that? In the 5th chapter, 29th verse. What he says? Bhoktaram Yagatapasham Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhidam Sarvabhutanam Yatvamam Shanti Richati. That's Bhoktaram Yagatapasam. So he is the enjoyer or he is the beneficiary of all the sacrifice. So here how he can change? So he says, Adi Yagyam Aham Evatra. That I am the one who is the Lord of all sacrifices. And where does he reside? Where does the Lord reside? Dehe Deha Bhritambara. Above the embodied, which is embodied, is his soul. So within the embodied, the super soul resides. Now see the translation. O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature, which is constantly changing, is called Adi Bhuta. Shara means it is already changing. That is what it is getting destroyed and it is getting new form is coming out. Old form is getting replaced by the new form. So it is Shara. Bhava is not. It cannot remain permanent. It is constantly changing. It is Shara. The physical nature which is constantly changing is called Adi Bhuta, the material manifestation. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of the sun. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the super soul in the heart of every embodied being, is called Adi Yagya, the Lord of Sacrifice. So how many questions he has answered here? Huh? What are the three? And what all he has also mentioned now? Deha Deha Britambara. That is the fourth. He has answered Adi Bhutam Shara Bhava. This is one. What is the constant, the material manifestation, the nature which is constantly changing. Then Purushascha Adi Devatam. That in the universal form, he is the governing principle of all the demigods. Then he says Adi Yagyo Aham Evatra. That of all the lords of sacrifice, I am the one. And the fourth one he says, this verse is in four parts. So Krishna is answering four questions. What is the fourth question? Deha Deha Bhritambara. That where he resides? Where is the Adi Yagya residing? In the heart of the super soul, in the heart of every individual. So how many answers? Four answers. Very simple. In the third verse, Krishna gives three answers. In the fourth verse, Krishna gives four answers. And the eighth answer, Krishna will continue. Okay. It comes into conception, which is called birth. Then it has some growth. Then it stays for some time. Then it gives some byproduct. Then it starts to dwindle and finally it dies. So there are 6 changes or 6 transformations, which is called as the Shadavikar. Anything and everything in this material world will have the 6 phases. Nothing more than that. That which has taken birth is sure to die. It will finish, it will terminate. Material body is generally passed through 6 stages. They are born, they grow, they remain for some duration, they produce some byproducts, they dwindle and they vanish. This physical nature is called Adi Bhuta. It is created at a certain point and will be annihilated at a certain point. Date of manufacture and date of expiry. Everywhere. Everyone. Every year we celebrate so-called date of manufacture, your birthday. What about date of expiry? Foolish people. As if they are closing their eyes, the sun will not rise. If we close the eyes, sun will not rise. Sun is bound to rise. The person is blind. He cannot see this. Why? Because just by rising and setting, what the sun is doing, he is pushing us one day nearer to death. Ayu harata vapumsam ashtan udan chayasana. Just by rising and by setting, what the sun is doing, it is taking away our lives. Our lifespan is being reduced every day. It is created and it will be annihilated at a certain point. The conception of the universal form of the Supreme Lord, which includes all the demigods and different planets, is called Adi Devata. Adi Devata. It is not Adi, it is Adi. And present in the body along with the individual soul is the super soul, the plenary representation of Lord Krishna. The super soul is called Paramatma or Adi Yagya and is situated in the. So out of the 7 items, what are the most important items? Now you tell me. Out of the 7 items we have discussed so far, which Krishna is answering, what are the important items and what are the not so important items? Think and then speak. Huh? Karma is most important. Karma will create future body. So karma is least important. If you give up karma, no future body. You are saying karma is most important. Why? Because you want to again come back and rot and suffer with birth. When you take birth, along with birth, 3 things will come free. What are the 3 things will come free? Death will come free. And before death, there will be old age. It will come. And before old age, what will come? Disease will come. People, this is what the training is. This is what the teaching is. Karma is most abominable. Karma means rotating in the cycle of birth, death, old age, and the first thing what we have to change, we have to change our karma. Okay. What is important and what is less important here? What we have to select and what we have to reject? What we have discussed among the 7? बोलो भाई, मनोराम, हाँ बताइए. What is important and what is unimportant?
Prabhuji, two most important aspect out of the 7 I found, Prabhuji. One is we have to know the Adhi Yagya about the Supreme Lord, and about that Adhyatma, that we are the eternal nature. So if we come to that platform, to our eternal nature, then we can realize about the Adhi Yagya. And other things are, I think, subsidiary, Prabhuji.
Your attempt is good, but it is partly correct. One aspect is not properly represented. Yes, the purpose is to know Adi Yagya, who is the super soul residing in the heart. But when can one come to know the Adi Yagya? When he comes on the Brahman platform, eternal platform. What was the first answer? Aksharam Brahma Paramam. So if you have realized Brahman, then Swabhava, which is Adhyat, will also be realized. But if you have not realized yourself as Brahman, Swabhava, which is Adhyat, can ever be realized. The two most important things to know is to know Brahman and to know Adi Yagya. Other things are not required. If you know these 2 things, everything else will be known. Clear? Yes, no?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Pranav? You are hearing Pranav Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. I'm here.
So we have to come to this platform of realizing that we are not this body, we are Brahman. Otherwise, we will remain in Brahma, or illusion. And at present in the body along with the individual soul, the super soul is called Paramatma or Adi Yagya and is situated in the heart. The word Eva is particularly important in the context of this verse because by this word the Supreme Lord stresses that the Paramatma is not different from him. This is very important. The super soul, the supreme personality of Godhead, seated beside the individual soul, is the witness of individual soul's activity and is the source of soul's various types of consciousness. So the Supreme Lord is there in the heart as the feature of super soul. And what he is doing? He is witnessing each and every activity of it. The super soul gives the individual soul an opportunity to act freely and witnesses his activities. Although he's seated in the heart, but he does not control. If we have the opportunity, what we will do? All these different manifestations of the Supreme Lord automatically become clarified for pure Krishna conscious devotee engaged in transcendental service of the Lord. So how to realize Brahman and how to realize for Brahman or the Adi Yagna when one is progressing or advancing in Krishna consciousness. Unless until one is progressing and advancing in Krishna consciousness, he can never realize. He may have all the books. He may have read it 100 times also, but he cannot realize. Because the realization is given by Krishna. And when he gives the realization, when he sees that his devotee is fully engaged in lovingly serving. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upiyanti te. So Krishna gives that spiritual intelligence. The gigantic universal form of the Lord is called Adiveta. Is contemplated by the new Hare Krishna. So those who are neophyte, as I was speaking, those who are not in ISKCON, if you ask them that which chapter in Bhagavad Gita fascinates you the most, which is the chapter which inspires or attracts you the most, what chapter they say? They say 11th chapter. Why? Because what they see in the 11th chapter, the gigantic form of the Lord, Vishwarup. And Prabhupada is speaking here very important thing. What Prabhupada is saying, that the gigantic universal form of the Lord called Adi Devata is contemplated by the neophyte who cannot approach the Supreme Lord in his manifestation as Super Soul. So why is it so? Neophyte means those who are preliminary stage, those who are not advanced. What is the difference? Why the neophytes meditate on the universal form or the Adi Deva form? What? Why they cannot go beyond? What is the difference? Why they are called neophytes? Why not advanced?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I think
Yes.
desires.
No, desire is to know the Supreme Lord.
No,
But
material desires.
come again.
Material desires means desire other from Lord.
Material desire person cannot see the Supreme Lord in his universal form. Can any person, before Krishna gave this universal form, Krishna told Arjuna that with his eyes you cannot see the universal form. So what did he say? Divyam dadami te chakshu. So I am gifting you this spiritual vision so that you can see my universal form. Are you and I able to see the universal form of the Lord? Sanjana?
No, no.
Why? Why? Because we have material desires and we don't have this spiritual vision. But Prabhupada is saying that even those who have the spiritual vision and those who are infatuated or those who are attracted by the universal form, they are neophytes. Why they are neophytes? Why they are not advanced? Ordinary person, no person can see. Can anyone see the universal form of the Lord? Even when he was depicting, how many were able to see? Only Arjuna and Sanjay were able to see. Others were not able to see. Were others able to see? No. So how is it possible that one who is having material desire can see the universal form? It is not so. Why they are neophyte? Seeing the universal form is not considered to be a very advanced stage of our practice. It is called neophyte stage. Why it is called neophyte? Why they cannot see the Supreme Personality in his personal form? They have to see in the universal. Think, answer, reply.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी। जैसे वृंदावन में कृष्णा को भगवान उतना नहीं ट्रीट करते, मतलब वो उनको वात्सल्य भाव से भजते हैं, तो जो
वृंदावन में भगवान के यूनिवर्सल फॉर्म कोई देखता है?
नहीं, कोई इंटरेस्टेड नहीं है, मतलब कृष्णा को भगवान मानते ही नहीं है, वो मतलब सखा के जैसे रहते हैं, इसीलिए शायद।
What is the difference? That is what I am asking. Why they are called the neophyte? Why not advanced? Even it is not called Madhyama. It is called neophyte. There are three stages of devotee. One is called the Uttama, which is the advanced. The other is called the Madhyama, which is the entering. And the third is called Prakrit, which is the neophyte. So why those who are able to see the universal form, they are still considered to be Prakrits? They are not considered spirituals. Why?
लैक ऑफ लव मीन्स जो उत्तम भक्ति होती है वो प्रेमा भक्ति होती है।
आप पहले सुनो, आपने बहुत सारे आंसर दिए, आपसे और डिप्यूटीज बैठे हैं जो सीनियर हैं, उनको ज्यादा अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, लेकिन वो देखो अभी चुप है। सुनने का प्रयास करो और अपना वीडियो भी ऑन करो ना। एक खाली आपका वीडियो ऑफ है, बाकी सबका वीडियो ऑन है। वीडियो हमेशा ऑन रखो, इम्पोर्टेंट है, नहीं तो एसोसिएशन का एडवांटेज नहीं मिलेगा। यस, क्या दिक्कत क्या? अपने रूम में बैठिए, वीडियो शुड बी ऑन। इट्स अ वेरी नेगेटिव संस्कार, इट इज एन इम्पर्सनल संस्कार। क्या अपने रूम में बैठिए, वीडियो शुड बी ऑन। इट्स अ वेरी नेगेटिव संस्कार, इट इज एन इम्पर्सनल संस्कार। Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. How much philosophy? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Why they are called neophyte? Jaldi bolo, time is getting up. It's getting late. You get so much time. You should have answered so by now. Why universal form worship are called neophyte? Those who worship the universal form of the Lord, they are called neophyte. Why? In the 9th chapter, Krishna will discuss it. Vishnu Mukham is what? Universal form? Yes, Ramya, boliye.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, those who are...
Bolo, I have already asked you. Unmute and speak.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna,
Yeah,
Prabhuji.
boliye.
Prabhuji, those who worship the universal form of
Hare
the
Krishna.
Lord, they are not Ananya Bhaktas. They...
What bhakti mean? Forget Ananya Bhakta. What does bhakti mean? What is the basic principle of bhakti? Huh? What is the basic principle of bhakti? In the universal form, can you render service? What do you see from the universal form? What do you see in the universal form? Huh? Everyone is so much scared of me. Can you render any service? Is it possible to render any service? The one who is not rendering service, what stage he is? Is that neophyte. That neophyte. Okay, we'll go ahead. So it is contemplated by the neophytes who cannot approach the Supreme Lord in his manifestation as super soul. The neophyte is advised to contemplate the universal form of Virat Purusha, whose legs are considered the lower planet, whose eyes are considered the sun and moon, and whose head is considered the upper planetary system. So that is why they are called. So Adi Deva is not required. Adi Bhuta is not required. What is only required? Adi Yajna. And neither karma is required. Adhyatma will always come when one is coming to the platform of Brahman realization. Okay. So I'll stop here. What is the time? I think it is nearly to 9. Yeah, it is just 2 minutes to 9. Okay, Sanjana. So this is the answer. As we perform service to the Lord, we progress in devotional levels of practice. Here Krishna has answered the 7 questions of Arjuna. And in the next 3 verses, Krishna, 4 verses, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, Krishna will answer Arjuna's 8th question. That how to know him or how to remember him at the time of death. Okay. So any discussion or any question, so please ask. Otherwise, this term will remain in the book. It will not enter our heart. If we have not participated in any discussion or we have not have any general inquiry, that means our consciousness has not detected. It has not registered any conceptual understanding. Hare Krishna. No question? Brahman realization हो गया? We are all Brahman. हाँ? अब प्रसाद लेने की क्या जरूरत है? Okay, we don't have question, then we stop. Okay. What is your question? Population is where the population will die. There are how many species of life? 8,400,000 species of life. Can any scientist bring even 1 million species of life? Huh? You try. Entire the world scientist community try and list down and show us 1 million species of life.